begin? Yes? Okay, let's begin. Okay, selamat datang teman-teman. We at Group Infinity, so we read this book for you. We did the execution authored by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan. So, learning has always been known as very serious and very sometimes boring topic, but with Group Infinity, we wanted to do something a bit different. So we feel that learning can be fun, and it should be funny, and it should be enjoyable, then you remember it for much more longer, correct? Otherwise you won't remember what you learn. So in this dedication, we as a whole group, we are really dedicated to make you remember what you learned. We want to serve you. So we as a whole group, we're going to prepare a short skit in line with our RG presentation. This skit is totally spontaneous. They have no idea what they are going to do. There's only one skit director, which is Nicole. So she's the only one that will instruct all of them to do what it needs to be done on the spot. So this drama is exciting for both you and also for us. So for that, I'll pass. So the before presenters today, the first part I will present, followed by Kari, followed by Yao Tong, and finished off with Summer. They're all very kanchong. Anyway, let's begin. So, the contents of this book is divided into three main parts. The first part, which is why execution is needed. So the first two chapters, the gap nobody knows. Chapter 2, the execution difference. And then in part 2, the building blocks of execution. Building block number 1, a leader's 7 essential behaviors. Chapter 4, creating the framework for cultural change. Chapter 5, the job no leader should delegate, having the right people in the right place. The last part, 3 core processes of execution. Chapter 6, the people process, making the link with strategy and operations. Chapter 7, strategy process, making the link with strategy and operations. Chapter 8, how to conduct a strategy review. And chapter 9, the operations process, making the link with strategy and operations. So there's 3 processes that this book focuses on: people, strategy, and operations, and how to do the whole strategy review and how they link together. And then the conclusion will be just a one slide summary. So let's move on to part 1, why execution is needed. I hope they're ready, they're not coming up yet. Okay, chapter 1, the gap nobody knows. In the year 2000 alone, which is about 15 years ago, 40 CEOs of the top 200 companies in the Fortune 500 list were removed from their posts. When 20% of the most powerful business leaders in America lose their jobs, something is clearly wrong. So I think it's the CEO that's clearly something wrong. What is the problem? When companies fail to deliver on their promises, the most frequent explanation, the most frequent excuse that they'll give is the CEO strategy confirmed wrong. But then again, the strategy by itself might not always be the cause. Strategies most often fail because they are not executed well. So it's not a problem, the strategy problem, it's an execution problem. So to understand execution, you need to keep the key points in the following slides in mind. Chapter 2, the execution difference. The first point is that execution is a discipline, and it's integral, it's vital to any strategy. So without execution, strategy is nothing. I also need mention. Don't confuse execution with tactics. Execution is a systematic process of rigorously discussing how and what, questioning, tenaciously following through, and ensuring accountability. Who is responsible for what task in the execution process? It includes several key activities, including making assumptions about the business environment, external factors, assessing the organization's capabilities. What is my company strong at? What is my core competence? What is my unique advantage? Linking strategy to operations and the people who are going to implement this strategy. So putting in the right place. Synchronizing those people and their various disciplines to make sure there is no communication gap between all of them. Otherwise, the whole strategy will still fail anyway, no matter how good it is. Linking rewards to outcomes. So if they do a good job, they will have to be rewarded. So the heart of execution lies in 3 core processes, like I mentioned just now: the people process, the strategy process, and then the operations process. So every business and company uses these 3 processes in one form or the other. But more often than not, they stand far apart from one another. In the companies that fail, they always separate these 3 Lupa. The gap is Lupa, they don't talk to each other. So people perform them just like a habit, it's like a burden to them, and then they go back to do what they always do every day. This is surely a formula for failure. So those three core processes are what the things that matter about execution. Furthermore, they should be tightly linked with one another and should not be compartmentalized among staffs. So all of them in the whole execution line must understand what they're doing. It should not just, you do A, you do B, you do C. All of them must understand what is A, B, C. Instead, the leader of the business and his or her leadership should be deeply engaged in all of these A, B, C processes. Second point is that execution is the major job of any business leader. An organization can execute only if the leader's heart and soul are immersed in the company. Leading is more than thinking big and inspiring people with a vision. The leader must be in charge of getting things done by running all of those three core processes, picking other leaders, setting the strategic direction, and then conducting operations. Conduct operations. Leaders cannot delegate these actions regardless of how big or small your business is. So part 2, I think I talked quite a lot. I should give a chance to my fellow teammates. So next up will be Kai Wei. Please welcome her.
Thank you, YY. Now I will present part 2, the building blocks of execution. So the chapter 3, building block first. The leader seven essential behaviors. First, know your people and your business. Second, insist on realism. Third, set clear goals and priorities. Next, follow through, reward the doers, expand people capabilities, and last, know yourself. First, know your people and your business. Leaders have to lead their businesses. In companies that do execute, the leaders are usually out of touch with the day-to-day realities. As a leader, to connect personally with your people, and personal connection help build your intuitive feel for the business as well as for the people running the business. Second, insist on realism. Realism is the heart of execution. But many organizations are full of people who are trying to avoid reality. Why? Because reality can make life uncomfortable. How do you make realism a priority? You start by being realistic yourself. Then you make sure realism is the goal of all dialogues all dialogue in the organization. Next, set clear goals and priorities. Leaders who execute focus on a very few clear priorities that everyone can follow. Why just a few? Anybody who thinks through the logic of a business will see that focusing on 3 or 4 priorities will produce the best result from the resource on hand. Along with having clear goals, you should strive for simplicity in general. They know how to simplify things so that the others can understand, evaluate them, and act on them. Next, follow through. The failure to follow through is widespread in business and a major cause of poor execution. How can you avoid this inertia? First, think various reasons for resisting to buy into an idea. Second, create a follow-through mechanism that ensures that everyone will do what he or she is supposed to in order to execute an idea. Next, reward the doers. If you want people to produce specific results, reward them accordingly. Many corporations do such a poor job of linking rewards to performance that there's little correlation at all. A good leader ensures that the organization make this distinction and that they become a way of life. If you want your company to have a culture of execution, make clear to everybody that rewards and respect are based on performance. Next, expand people's capability through coaching. As a leader, you acquire a lot of knowledge and experience along the way. One of the most important parts of the job is passing it on the next generation of leaders. This is how you expand the capabilities of everyone else in your organization, individually and collectively. The most effective way to push is to observe a person in action and then provide specific, useful feedback. The feedback should point out examples of behaviors and performance that are good or that need to be changed. Last, know yourself. To know yourself, develop emotional fortitude and awareness of your personal strengths and weaknesses, especially in dealing with other people, and the ability to build on the strengths and correct the weaknesses. Emotional fortitude is what gives the person the confidence to be a leader who delivers results. And the next chapter, building blocks again, creating the framework for cultural change. There are 3 keys to create an execution-driven culture. First, to link rewards to performance. Second, to develop the social software of execution. Third, to recognize the importance of robust dialogue. First, link rewards to performance. This is the vital tool for changing behavior. A business culture defines what gets appreciated and rewarded. It tells people what's valued, and in the interest of trying to make their own career more successful, that's where they will concentrate. If a company rewards and promotes people for execution, its culture will change. Second, to deliver the social software of execution. Like a computer, a corporation has both hardware and software. Hardware includes the company's strategy and structure, and for the software, it's like the company's values and beliefs. Like a computer, if the computer is without software, the hardware is useless. And the last one, recognize the importance of robust dialogue. It makes an organization effective in gathering and understanding information. Next, reshaping information to product decisions. Now I will pass to Yao Dong to continue the chapter.
So I'm Yao Dong, and I would like to present chapter 5, building block number 3, the right people in the right job. So the objective of this is to select and evaluate peoples. What kind of peoples are you looking for? In common sense, tell us the right people should be in the right job, but actually they are not. And the following is the issue on selecting the people. The leader may not know enough about the people they are appointing. And second is leaders pick people whom they are comfortable rather than others who have better skill for the job. the leaders likely to choose to pick the persons who are work closely to them rather than the person who have a better skill. And the third is leaders may not have the courage to discriminate between strong and weak performers and take necessary action. Fourth is leaders too often seduced by the educational and intellectual quality of the candidates they interview. And the last is lack of personal commitment on selecting, appraising, and developing people. So the authors suggest a few solutions to deal with this issue. So the first solution is leaders requires to commit 40% of their times and emotional energies to selecting, appraising, and developing people. And the second solution is leaders should select doers instead of talker. Third is select those who possess the following characteristics, such as the leaders know how to energize people, and leaders are decisive enough on some issue, which the leader have a decisiveness on making decisions. And the next is leader get things done through others, not only the leader himself, but give an opportunity to other person to complete the task. And leaders follow through. So the part 3, I would like to talk about the 3 core process of execution. And the objective of this people process is to evaluate individual accurately and in depth. This means that the leader should assess the individual's motive instead of just a surface, and provide us framework for identifying and developing leader talents. And third is it builds the leadership pipeline that is the basis of a strong succession plan. Next, I would like to talk about the steps to meet the goal. So the first refers to strategy and operation. Second is develop the leadership pipeline, and the assessments to develop the pipeline. The following are 2. The leadership assessment summary is to assess on the leader behavior and performance, and the continuous improvement summary to make sure the leader continue improvement on their performance and behavior. And next is the successions depth analysis, and also the retention analysis. So the aim of the assessment is to avoid the organization inertia, the practice of keeping people in the same job for too long, and also to prevent moving people up too quickly. And the following step is the leader must be decisive dealing with the non-performance. Non-performers are those who are not performing very well and will not meet their objective. And the last one is to linking HR to business results. So the chapter 7 is the strategy process, making a link with people and operations. The objective of strategy process is to win the customer preference and create a sustainable company competitive advantage while leaving sufficient money on the tables for shareholders. So, step to meet the goal is to requires the how of executing the strategy, and developing such a plan starts with identifying and defining the critical issue behind the strategy, and the strategy itself should not be complex. And the author also suggests the strong strategy plans must address the 9 key questions. First is the assessment of the external environment, which means the leader should have know the external environment, and such as the market, the consumer behavior. And how well do you understand the existing customer and market? And the next is, what is the best way to grow the business profitability, and what are the obstacles to grow, and who is the competitions? The next is, can the business execute the strategy, and what are the important milestones for executing the plan? If the leaders do not meet the milestone, which means the leaders should reconsider whether they are got the right plan. Next is, are the short-term and long-term goals is balanced, and what are the critical issues facing the business? And then lastly is, how will the business make money on sustainable basis? And next I'll ask you Simon to continue with that.
Thank you, Yadong. Once again, good evening to all the judges and all the fellow TRC members. Okay, the night is still young. I hope you guys are still follow our presentation. Can I have a clap from you all? Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to introduce the last two chapters from the chapter 8, how to conduct a strategy review. The business unit strategy review is the prime social operating mechanisms of the strategy process. It provides a productive ground for testing and validating the strategy. It has to be inclusive and interactive. It must be feature a solid debate, conducted in the robust dialogue of the execution culture, with all the key players present and speaking their minds. Besides that, the review should be also a training exercise. It's a good place for a leader to learn about and how to develop the people. When you conduct a strategy review, the question to raise is the plan realistic? Is it internally consistent? Are the people committed to it? How well versed is each business unit team about their competitions? And also, how strong is the organizational capability to execute the strategy? Is the plan scattered or sharply focused? Are we choosing the right ideas? And are the linkage with the people and the operation clear? Okay, throughout the process, asking the questions constantly, keep on your mind. Do you have the right leader in the right job? Because the right leader is going to monitor your staff when your leader is not efficient, so maybe your job is going into low productivity. So after that, how well do they work together? Make sure your subordinates and your leaders, they can work together. And before the last, do you have enough of the kind of people you need? And do you have the production, financial, and technological resources to execute the strategy? Okay, the last chapter is chapter 9, the operation process, making the link with the strategy and the people. From the just now, my colleague has talked about the strategy process and the people process, and the last process will be the operation process. The operating plan provides the path for achieving the strategic plan to the people who need to achieve it. It breaks the long-term output into short-term targets. And operating plans include the programs your business is going to complete within the 1 year to reach the desired level of such objectives such as earnings, sales, margin, and also cash flows. Among these programs are the product launches, the marketing plans, a sales plans that take advantage of market opportunities, a manufacturing plans that stimulating production output, and the production plans that improve efficiency. The operating plan specifies how the various moving parts of the business will be synchronized to achieve the target that has been set, deal with the trade-offs that need to be made, and look at the contingents for the things that can go wrong or offer the unexpected opportunities. In the operating plan, the leader is primarily responsible for overseeing the seamless transition from the strategy to the operations. He has to set the goals, links the details of the operation process to the people and the strategy process, and lead the operating reviews that bring people together around the operating plan. The assumption on which the operating plan is based are linked to reality and are debated among the finance people and the line leaders who have to execute. All the people accountable for executing the plan need to help to construct it. An operating plan addresses a critical issue in execution by building a budget that is based on the reality. For example, what do the capital market expect and what are your assumptions about your business environment? Debate on assumption is one of the most critical issues on the operating review. You cannot set a realistic goal until you have debated the assumption behind them. This is often a difficult process. Because in budget and operating plan negotiation, there is an inherent conflict of interest. Yet, debating the assumption and making trade-off openly in the group of an important part of our social software, it builds the business leadership capacities of all the people involved. As they contrast and share a common picture of what's happening on the outside and the inside, they hone their ability to synchronize. And they publicly make their commitment to execute. After filling out the assumption, we are going to look through the build operating plan. There are the most important of 3 parts. The first part of the process is setting the key target for revenues, operating margin, cash flow, productivity, and so forth. The participants in this part of the process will vary from the business to business, but what's important is that you give a one-page overview focus on the things that will drive the improvement in results. In the second part of the process, you develop the action plans, including making the necessary trade-off between the short-term objective and long-term goals. Also, some strategies contain a very specific and clear idea that will grow the business profitable but that requires investments in the current operating periods. The last part, and will be the third part of the process, we get agreement and closure from all participants, establish the follow-through measure to make sure people are meeting their commitments. Here are some outcomes of a good operation process. Clearly identify milestones and the targets. The most important for a business is you have to set up a clear target and how are we going to achieve this. By this way, you can follow your way to help you gain the profits. Second, follow through and contingencies. And the third one is quarterly reviews. The review process is very important. By this way, you can know who are the person you needed and the bottom line person who what they are going to do. And by the way, the leaders also have a lot of learning. They can know how to allocate the resourcing, reassign, and something so on. Okay, I would like to conclude this presentation. The project of every business depends on how well the 3 core processes came together: the people process, the strategy process, and the operation process. You need to master the 3 of the process individually and the way they work together as a whole. In addition, you must keep the 3 building blocks that serve as the foundation of the whole process. Those building blocks are the 7 behaviors of leadership, establishing a framework of culture change, and getting the right people in the right job. None of this work is extraordinarily hard, but it is extraordinarily important. Without these building blocks and processes, even the best plan is nothing more than a plan. The difference between a great strategy that succeeds and a great strategy that fails lies in how well everyone in the company gets the insights to carry out the strategy. This takes the energy, commitment, and precision, and above all, a focus on the execution. Okay, thank you for all presentation from the Infinity team. Hope you guys are enjoy and find it useful. Okay.
So this brings us to an end to our RLG presentation. I hope that you have all learned something from this presentation, supported by our very random class. Although I'm not sure if they did a good job. What do you think? Do you think they did a good job? So yeah, we hope that you learned something today, the difference between execution and strategy, how important it is to link them together, and also how to differentiate them together so that you know which to focus on. So yeah, thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Now with that, we are halfway through our RLG presentation.